Hello, my friends. Jacob Israel's here one more time. I'm so happy that you all joined me, that you pressed play, and that you're here. And you probably already hit that thumbs up because you know that that helps to get a lot of people to come and watch the show. I'm drinking my wormwood tea again. Last show that I did, you all said, you were like, oh, you're giving it a bad rap. You have to put some honey in it. It's so good for you, Jacob, which I believe is true. So I put a little honey in, and before we start the show, I'm going to try it to see if it makes it any better. I don't want to scare any of you away. You know, if the Lord wants us to consume wormwood like he says in the book of Jeremiah, then let's have some wormwood, shall we? No, it's still awful. It's still awful. And so is the way the world is today, especially if you're on, the old Twitter, which, by the way, I'm Jacob Israel 71 on Twitter. If you want, you can follow me there. There's just so much stuff that gets you concerned. So much stuff indeed. I put a little challenge out there on Twitter. I said to everybody, I made a gentleman's wager. You remember what those were? I think it means, it's we're just going to bet, but there's no money on the line. It's just like, I'm a gentleman. I'm trying to prove myself. So I put a little gentleman's wager out there, and I'm not discriminating against anybody. If you're a gentlewoman, that's fine. If you believe you're something else, that's fine too. Hey, we're all welcome at Jacob's Well here. So the wager was, I bet there's going to be some huge news in the next 24 hours. Huge! It's going to be like shocking, I said. You know why? Because it's a non-stop assault on our psyche. That's what it is. Oh. It just seems that way. It's like we're one psyop onto another psyop onto another psyop, just like the old Elon said. That's the way it seems today, doesn't it? It does seem that way. And no sooner did I put that tweet out there that people were like, Jacob, did you see North Korea launched like a missile? This was like days after they said, we're going to go on the offensive and we'll attack. We don't care. We're going to do whatever. We have nuclear capability. And it was like a day later. And then, boom, it sends this missile out. And, of course, all of Japan was on, like, lockdown. You had the sirens going. They were playing this stuff right here, getting people freaked out. And then we're on to the next thing, right? Then we're on to the next thing. That passed. No big deal. We're going to forget about all that. Then somebody else was like, hey, did you know that Chase was involved with, that guy, that terrible, this guy right here, this terrible monster, this trafficker. Yeah, that Chase was involved and knew about payments. Fox just put some post out about that. They're like, hey, was this the news you're looking for? Following that was the pleasant news about the bank. The kid that he was 23 years old, and I guess he was about to be let go, or he was let go. I don't know. But that was the next thing. The next thing was in Louisville, the big, terrible mass shooting. 5 people, I think, lost their lives or were injured or something. This was all within that 24-hour span. But don't worry. Hey, wait, it gets better. I finally heard about the news going down with the old cattle farm. The dairy farm. Let me see this dairy farm. Where is it? Like almost 20,000 cattle being burnt. This is like a big deal, right? We've had so many of these things happening all the time. Something like 20,000 cattle. You know what I put out on Twitter? I put out because, of course, I said it was a burnt offering. Like right when the temple's done and everything else, when the temple's done, the first thing that Solomon does is he sacrifices a lot of animals, a lot of cattle, innumerable cattle. 2 Chronicles 7, he sacrifices like 20,000 cattle. So I'm like, hey, it's a burnt offering. Because, of course, that was when they placed the ark inside of that temple. It was a big deal. So there had to be some kind of a burnt offering. Cattle being one of the offerings. I'm not saying that that's what happened. But isn't it interesting? Especially when we got more crazy news that came out about a new variant that follows the Kraken. Guess what the name of it is? ARCTURUS. Now, why is this interesting? Not just because, of course, ARCTURUS is mentioned in the book of Job, where God was talking to Job and he's like, where were you? And he mentions ARCTURUS in relation to the beast that is in the depths of the sea, the Leviathan, if you will. But that's not the interesting thing. ARCTURUS, of course, we know is like a constellation. It's known as the guardian of get this, the bear. That's right. Yeah, the bear. It's interesting. Now, Arcturus is the name for this new variant, which is interesting because, of course, they're saying that it's like going wildfire. It's everywhere. In India, it's like spreading like mad. You know what Arcturus means? Somebody sent this to me. I'm trying to think. I think it was Larry. I think Larry sent me this whole thing. He's like, Arcturus, and he broke it down as pandemic. And I was like, well, hang on. Let me look that up because I think that it has something more to do with the Ark of God, Arcturus. And I looked it up, and in Latin, guess what it means? The Ark is here. The Ark was there when there was the cattle that were being sacrificed, when there was the dedication of the temple of God. When the Ark was there, right? This also could be a spaceship too, by the way, right? Like in the literal sense, because everybody's talking about the mothership that's going on. This is in the news as well. All of these things happening within like the last 24 to 48 hours since I put that tweet up. This is interesting because I see like a connection to all of this stuff, like a spiritual connection, which gets me excited. The Ark is here, following the Kraken. You want to get really deep and kooky, right? Remember I talked to you about the Beast and Cody Rhodes? Well, guess what? That's the next big pay-per-view. The Beast is facing Cody Rhodes. It's a picture. It's a picture, if you will, of these things that are going down. That's Brock Lesnar. And of course, you know, this guy, he's so spooky looking. And Cody Rhodes. They're going to be facing each other in the next big pay-per-view. We've been talking about bears going on with the bear kick, the bears, of course. So they name it Arcturus. I just find it strange. It's the brightest star in the constellation of Boots, which, get this, if you know anything about Boots, because I've covered this. I've talked about Arcturus in relation to Nibiru. I don't remember which video it was, but I remember doing a whole breakdown of Arcturus and how important it was. Boots is the herdsman. Does this sound a little bit like the harvest? Like the end days? Does this sound a little bit like that? When you start to look at all the words fall into place, the Ark is here, right? Just very interesting to me. He's known as the keeper or the guardian of the bear, which refers to the position, by the way, Arcturus, to the tail of the constellation Ursa Major, the Great Bear. So in other words, Arcturus is like the guardian of the bear. Now, could that also be something to do with maybe Christ, if you will? If the Ark is here, you know, the one that kind of keeps the bear at bay, I don't know. I'm just saying, it could be hopeful. Oh, if you want to find Arcturus, by the way, in the night sky, find the Big Dipper. And when it's highest in the northeast around like 10 p.m., follow the handle of its arcs around. Keep going until you come to a bright yellow-orange star low on the horizon. Arc to Arcturus, as the old stargazers used to say. Weirder still, the ancient Egyptians called Arcturus, listen to this, the keeper of heaven. Heaven! I should have had my Uranus as a planet mug for my wormwood tea instead of my God's Champion. But God's Champion, by the way, in the description for all the merch and anything else, all the links, if you want to contact me, anything, it's all in the description of the video. You just click on it where it says more or description. I don't know how it goes. Oh, make sure you're subscribed too. A lot of people are becoming unsubscribed and it really bums me out. Bums me out when people are like, oh, I thought you were, no, don't do videos anymore. What happened, Jacob? I'm like, I do a video every other day. Like every other day. So make sure that you're subscribed. Make sure you check the bell for notifications and connect with me. Maybe on Telegram or anything else. That's where I do like little notifications. Make sure that you're subscribed to my website, jacobisrael.com. All this stuff is free, people. The keeper of heaven. That's what the Egyptians used to call it. The Chinese, they called it the palace of the emperor. But here's the weird thing, right? And this is why it gets me a little freaked out about those that are in the world that don't know the Lord. Because remember, God kind of seals the people off. Those that are doing good, they're not going to go through this time of trouble in the same way. We're all going to experience it. But we're all going to be okay if we're doing the right thing in life. I'm promising you that. Why? Because God promised us, and God's not like man, who is a liar. Don't trust the advice of men, but know what when God says something and he promises something, he means it. God does keep his promises, and he does say, you know, he will save all those that he wants to save. That's in the scriptures. So no matter what we are going through at the moment, don't get stressed out, baby, because God's got our backs. But sailors, Arcturus to sailors, harbinger of doom. Not a good thing. Bad storms, violent storms, harbinger of doom. You know, the Greek physician Hippocrates, 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 whatever you call all the kids call, crazy kids call him, the Hippocrates, because you take that Hippocratic oath, the one to do no harm, supposedly, which is really kind of an oath. I don't know if you knew that, but that's like, when you take that oath, you're taking an oath to a Roman god, just so you know. Doctors out there, make sure you get the wackadoo or you're going to die. That's what they told me. That was craziness. But to the Greek physician, he said the positioning in the sky influences human health. He says at the rising in spring, which is right now, diseases often prove critical. So one was apt to die at the rising of Arcturus. And here we see the name Arcturus rising in connection to the virus of the crown. Guess who it affects? The children. The children. And you know what? It has this weird new symptom. Just so you know what it is? Sticky eyes. You know when you get like the pink eye, but it's not the pink eye? Sticky eyes, like eyes that like get all crusty. But think about that spiritually speaking. Remember Gates and all them? They did their little thing where they talked about the next big, pandemic, the next big one that's going to hit the streets. They called it the catastrophic contagion. I did a whole show on it. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Well, that one, of course, they said affects mainly the children. So here we have Arcturus bubbling to the news. But you know what? Everything I've read about it before you get all stressed out, okay? Don't get stressed out before you get all stressed up, because you know what? There have been colds and there have been flus and there have been all these things for a long time. It is amazing how the flu just disappeared between the years that, the virus of the crown took over. Just disappeared, right? Come on, really. Trust God, don't trust man. So, every time I hear about, the little children, I always think of that last plague of Egypt that comes upon us. But who the heck knows? I do know that Arcturus the arc is here. And I think that is really a wonderful thing. But I guess there's another way of looking at it too. If you look at it from Hippocrates' point of view, it could be a bad thing. I don't know. You got to tell me. But I do know that since I put that tweet up, all that kooky stuff that went down, the Pentagon Papers that everybody's talking about, well, they got them. That's right. That was the big news, too. That was the next big thing. Can you believe all this stuff is, hitting mainstream news, within the last 24 to 48 hours? Yeah, so they got him. That's him. Yeah, he just, he was taking 21-year-old airman, pretty low level. I call him the Pentagon Paper Bandit. How did he get access to all this classified information? I think, to get his job, you need a high school degree. I think that was about it or something. It wasn't like he had to be something. He's 21, right? My oldest son is 22. You're gonna trust him? You're gonna trust my oldest son with the deepest secrets of the world? I don't know. It sounds a little far-fetched to me. Jack's his name. He's a Massachusetts Air National Guardsman, and so they caught him. And where they released the information? If you didn't hear this, it's very interesting. Like Minecraft servers, video games. I guess that's where a 21 would go. I got the answers, everybody. Let me go in to my game, my video game, and let me tell my buds online on the server. That's where it was released, by the way. This is something else. World secrets being released in video games. It's like a Call of Duty game or something. Something like that. But life does seem like a video game, especially recently, And, oh, by the way, of course, we can't forget the smackdown that Elon Musk gave that BBC reporter, where he was like, "You, sir, don't know what you're talking about." And then he called him a liar. And it was like a big deal. Everybody was going nuts. Everybody was like, "Yeah, take that, you big propaganda paper." Because if you remember correctly, just a little while ago, he basically labeled everybody, you're government funded, and they got very upset. NPR got very upset that they were labeled what they are as well, and I think PBS now followed. They're jumping ship from Twitter. Well, they're jumping ship from Twitter. Elon's like, "Hey, by the way, everybody, you can get subscribers now." And, he changed everything. Twitter Inc. is no longer Twitter Inc. It's now X Corp. And if you remember correctly, X Corp is going to be like the Everything app. I told you this a while ago. Hopefully you've been paying attention, because it seems like it's happening pretty quickly. You don't want to mess with the bull, you're going to get the horns, if you know what I mean. So you better be on your guard, because, especially since Twitter partnered with eToro, the bull Toro, to let users trade stock in crypto as he continues, Musk that is, to push the company further into finance. Oh, this guy, he's a mover and a shaker. But he has got this new subscribe feature now, so you got to subscribe to him. I don't know. I think, don't quote me on this because I'm so old. I'm going to be 52. Or am I 52? I don't even know how old I am. So I don't really understand things, but I do know that I was. But I think with the subscription, maybe there's a charge. I don't know. But I'm already paying for it, so I don't know. I don't know how it is. I'll probably end up offering subscriptions at some point in time, I guess. It's all a little bit too much. It's all a little bit too fast for me. I want to go a little bit slower. All these changes that are coming out just seems spooky. There was a poll. Somebody put a poll out. Who would you trust with like the powers of God? And it had like all these people, like Sam Altman, the OpenAI guy, Elon, and like 2 other people. I don't really know. And of course, the poll was like, everybody was like, let's give Elon God powers. So, it's like he could become like the God King. That's a joke for Boca. That's my buddy out there, if he's listening. But yeah, the God King. That's if he had the God powers, right? Wouldn't that be what it is? I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. But free speech, I think, is a pretty good thing. And he's saying that he bought the platform because he wanted to protect it and that it was important. And if that's what the man says, you gotta you judge a tree by its fruit. So until you see otherwise. Until you start seeing things going, and you got to trust your intuition, people. That's what I say. Don't think the worst about everybody, but don't also just buy into everything hook, line, and sinker. Like a lot of people, and I'm not saying this, I don't want to offend anybody, because I know a lot of people out there are what they call anons. I don't know much about the movement. I know a little bit about some of the stuff, right? I'm friendly with some people that are very into it, and I care about some people that are into it. I don't really buy into it too much. The whole thing that like Kennedy's coming back and like, Trump's going to run with Kennedy. That's like their thing. They really think. So like Vincent Kennedy, who's on Twitter, and 4VKM, they were like, the prophecy is true. Because, what's making the rounds right now is Robert Kennedy, because he's running now. Wouldn't it be great if, he and Trump were on a ticket? A lot of people were they're going bananas over this thing. So people are thinking like, maybe that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I still think it's going to be Tulsi Gabbard. I've said that for a long time. I don't know why I say it. I'm not even a fan of Tulsi. I used to think she was all right until I started seeing all the pictures of her with her hands in a pyramid shape. And then I'm like, why are you doing that? But who knows, right? Who knows? He could be the guy. Because I do seem to like him. I seem to like a lot of people, and then then of course you get a little closer to the tree and you find out there's no fruit on the tree that's good. So then you curse it. You're like, I'm not gonna eat from this tree anymore. Maybe a lot of people, you should do the same thing. You should understand that the people that are in charge right now, they're probably in charge because they have an agenda, and that may not include your best interest. Just saying. These leaders, we don't even know if they're real. There's so many pictures that look, this guy doesn't look like this guy. His ear is attached. His earlobe's not attached. And of course, fourth Musketeer shares this of Biden. He was, I guess he was talking. He's over there in Ireland, and he was talking, and then I guess he was scratching his neck, and they're like, "Look, it's a mask," because it does look like a mask. I'm not saying, I don't know why you wear a mask. I don't know why. I don't know. I'm sure they could get enough lookalikes, and if there is a lookalike, I don't know. Maybe he wasn't free. Unless it's a big joke, and this is really like the Truman Show, and it is, as some people say, Jim Carrey in disguise, which, by the way, I don't believe, but I think that would be super funny. Almost as funny as the fact that Biden gets off of the plane, and he comes into Ireland, and then, the Prime Minister, what's his name? Rishi Sunak? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, forgive me if I'm not, but Rishi's at the bottom, and he's so excited. This is his big moment. He gets to meet the President of the United States, and Biden's like, get out of the way. Let me talk to the old white guy with the outfit on. As they did. He didn't recognize him. He was probably thinking, "Who you, schmuck?" And he pushes him off to the side, and then he shakes the old man's hand. It was very disrespectful. It's very funny though too. Almost as funny as him saying "end quote" in his speech to Ireland as well, which was making the rounds. I'll tell you one thing, I think there's going to be some info coming out about the old Biden. Because I've been saying, we've been biding our time. I've been saying some stuff's going to come out. A lot of stuff's coming out. This is going to be the year. It's going to be a year of great upheaval. If we could have all these weird things happen, all of these, like 5 years ago, if North Korea launched a missile that was in the air for like 40 minutes over Japan and Japan was taking shelter, I think there'd be a little more of a panic. Okay? I think there would. Now it's kind of like, well, what's the next thing? That's what I do when I go to Twitter. I'm like, okay, let's see what's next. What's the next thing? That's not the best way to live. The best way is to say, God, what's the next thing for me? What do I need to know now? Right? Don't let Twitter tell you what's the next thing. Go to God and find out what the next thing is. And I'll tell you, it's always rooted in peace. It's always rooted in love. It's always rooted in friendship, compassion, and it's always rooted in unity and joy and purpose. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy. As I'm talking to you right now, I'm in excruciating pain. That's why I'm sweating so much. That's why I probably am moving around a little more than I used to. That's why I'm drinking a wormwood tea, because someone said, oh, it could help. I don't know. Still is horrible, even with the, horrible, even with the honey. Well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Because, I don't know, I'll do it. I do everything unto the Lord, and so should you. The little things that you do, say, God, let me do it today. Let me do it for you. Let me be a living sacrifice. That's what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be living testimonies. We're the epistles that are supposed to be read of all men. You know, people are supposed to come up to you and they're supposed to learn about God just by being around you, because you are the living word revealed in the flesh. It's John 1's all about. Jesus showed us the way. That day you'll know I'm in the Father's in me, and we're in you. So let's not get too stressed out about what's going on. We're God's children. We're God's chosen. We're God's elect. Doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. Every story in the Bible with every single hero, every single one, they had hard times, they messed up, they fell down, they scraped their knees, and they even died. Yeah, all of these things happen. But it doesn't mean that God's plan is not fulfilled. He purposed this in each and every one of us, and it can't fail. The only way we fail is if we miss the mark and we sin. And what's the mark? The mark is love God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind, and love others as yourself. That's it. That's the law fulfilled. You do that, and you got it all, baby. That's all you need. I love each and every one of you. I hope you had the best day ever. I really do hope that you take the time to maybe share the channel around. Tell your friends about the old Jacob here, Jacob's ladder, but you come to the well. And remember, when you leave this show, do me a favor, all right? Don't just go about and forget everything that you learned. Now, walk with Christ. Christ sits at the well. You come here, this is what I want you to take away with it. Don't just take away all the spooky stuff and the weird stuff. The ark is here, ARCTURUS. It's here. The sacrifice has been burned. The burnt offering, it's literally being burnt in the world today, in this country. So, what does that mean? That means we should be excited. I am. I hope you are too. And I hope you have the best day ever. Now enjoy the trailer to my novel, fan-made travel. Hopefully one day it'll be a movie. So it's kind of like my vision of what a trailer could look like if it was a movie. Because I know faith, right, is evidence of things hoped for, things that aren't seen. So my faith says one day this is going to be a thing. Watch the trailer. Enjoy it if you haven't seen it. If you have seen it and you haven't read the book, watch the trailer again and get yourself a copy of The Calling. It's available on Amazon. It's like the best book ever, best novel. Even if you've never read and you never think you want to read, right? You'll feel better if you say, I read a book and it's The Calling. I'm telling you, because it's a great book. I love each and every one of you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. September 10th. Mars hangs closer to the Earth than it has in 6,000 years. Like the light that led men from the east to a child in a manger, it could well be a sign of good things to come. Thomas James shall be his name. The world will change because of him. In the small town of Bethel, in a time not unlike our own, a child with a great purpose is born. Years later, alienated by his peers and abused, Thomas suffers a devastating loss. When it appears he has nothing left to live for in the world, this is when his true calling begins. While trying to escape the sinister powers that be, a terrifying vision haunts him. Miraculous events seem to follow the peculiar young man as he struggles to come to terms with what he was born to do. The stage is set. The time is at hand. The truth will rise and a revolution will begin. The startling revelation of who Thomas James is, truly, will change the lives of those around him and set off a chain of events long ago foretold. There is more to this novel than one might think. Inside these pages hides a treasure just waiting to be discovered. So if you've ever wondered if there's more to life, or why it is we suffer, then this story will not only captivate you, it may just open your eyes to a truth that could set you free. Find out what is in us all that makes us heed the calling